Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. I always believed honesty was the foundation of our marriage. So when Ida and I had discussed our future, our mutual agreement to delay children seemed like a settled matter. Therefore, the evening she bubbled over with the news of her pregnancy, my heart filled with a confusing cocktail of joy and suspicion. Her smile was wide, but her eyes darted away from mine with a nervous twitch. "Are you not happy, Jason?" she asked, her voice a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. "Of course, I am," I replied, masking my doubts with a hug. "It's just a surprise, you know." Over the following weeks, Ida became increasingly distant. Her phone was always buzzing, tucked away when I entered the room. Whispered conversations dissolved into silence with my approach. My heart wanted to trust her, but the seeds of doubt grew with each secretive smile she thought I didn't see. One day, driven by a mix of suspicion and the need to clear my conscience, I came home early. The sound of laughter led me to our bedroom. The door was ajar, and through the sliver of space, the scene inside struck me like a physical blow. Ida and a man, tall, with an unfamiliar face, were wrapped in an embrace on our bed. My world stopped, then shattered into jagged pieces of betrayal. "Jason!" Ida gasped as I pushed the door open, her face draining of color. The man scrambled off the bed, his expression a mix of embarrassment and defiance. "Look, man, Who is he?" I cut him off, my voice steady despite the chaos storming inside me. He's just a friend," Ida stammered, clutching the sheet to her chest. "A friend?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Do friends usually share beds like this?" The man stepped forward, his posture suggesting he was ready to leave but wanted to clear the air. "I think you deserve the truth, mate. I'm the father of the child Ida is carrying." The room spun around me as the final piece clicked into place. Aida's betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was complete, with another life entwined. "Why, Ida?" My voice cracked, the pain morphing into anger. "Why lie to me?" She was crying now, her composure broken. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Jason. It just did. I'm so sorry." Sorry wasn't enough. Not for a wound as deep as this. In the days that followed, I watched as Ida tried to mend what she had broken, but my mind was made up. I would not let this deceit define my life. I meticulously planned every step of my revenge, ensuring that Ida would experience the same devastation she had thrust upon me. Legal battles, social shaming, and ensuring she would lose everything she cherished, her job, her friends, even her family's respect. In the end, the divorce papers were just a formality. As she signed her name, tears streaming down her face, I felt a hollow victory. She had lost everything, and yet, my heart was not healed. "I hope one day you'll forgive me," she whispered as she turned to leave for the last time. "There's nothing left to forgive," I said, the door closing behind her with a finality that echoed in the empty halls of our once shared home. As I sat down, surrounded by the silence of my victory, I knew this was just the beginning. The main plot of my life was yet to unfold, and the intrigue of what was to come promised to be even more consuming. After Ida left, the silence of the house was deafening. I moved through the rooms, each corner a stark reminder of the life we had planned together. But with each step, my resolve hardened. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her betrayal define me. No, I was going to ensure that justice, my version of it, was served. The first step was the hardest. I contacted Aida's employer, crafting my words carefully. "I believe you value integrity in your employees," I began, the phone heavy in my hand. "I have reason to believe one of your staff is involved in unethical behaviors, detrimental not only to her personal life but potentially harmful to your company's reputation." The voice on the other end was cautious but interested. Go on. I'd prefer to discuss the details in person. It's a sensitive matter, I insisted. 2 days later, I was sitting across from the HR manager, laying out printouts of Aida's emails to her lover, emails sent from her work account. The manager's eyes widened with each piece of evidence, her lips pressed into a thin line. This is deeply concerning, she admitted, her tone cold. We'll have to investigate this further. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Walking out of that building, a bitter taste lingered in my mouth. It wasn't satisfaction, it was necessity. Next, I turned to social media. A few anonymous tips to local gossip pages did the trick. Rumors about Aida's affair began to circulate, each more exaggerated than the last. I watched detachedly as her once pristine image began to crumble under the weight of public scrutiny. As the days passed, I received a call from an old friend, Tom, who had heard through the grapevine about my situation. Jason, man, this isn't you. You're better than this revenge stuff, he chided over the phone. It's justice, Tom. She ruined my life. Why should she get to walk away scot-free? My grip tightened around the phone, my knuckles whitening. Justice or vengeance? Tom's question hung in the air, unanswered. I was about to retort when another call beeped in. It was Ida. I switched lines, my heart pounding with a cocktail of emotions, anger, pain, anticipation. Jason, please, we need to talk. This destruction you're orchestrating, it's enough. Aida's voice was shaky, tears evident even through the phone. I told you, Ida, you're going to feel just a fraction of what you made me feel, I responded coldly. Jason, I'm losing everything. My job, my friends, my family won't even talk to me now. Wasn't the divorce enough? What more do you want? There was desperation in her plea, a raw, broken edge to her voice that almost made me waver. Want? I wanted a wife who was faithful. I wanted the life we promised each other. Since I can't have that, I'll settle for making sure you don't get to live a lie. The line went silent for a moment before she hung up. I stared at the phone, the weight of our conversation settling around me like a heavy cloak. Tom was still on the other line, his silent presence a reminder of the man I used to be. Shaking off the lingering doubts, I prepared for the next phase of my plan. This was just the beginning, after all. Aida's social and professional life was only the first step. Financial ruin was next on my list. She'd feel the loss as acutely as I felt the betrayal. As I set the pieces into motion, the thrill of anticipation was tinted with a shadow of regret. But it was too late to turn back now. The main plot of my life was unfolding, and I was its relentless author. The weeks that followed turned into a blur of calculated moves. Each step was methodically planned, targeting Aida's life piece by piece. But as her world unraveled, mine became a mirror of isolation and cold resolve. My focus was unwavering, yet the man staring back at me from the mirror seemed increasingly unfamiliar. One evening, I sat in the dim light of my living room, poring over Aida's financial statements that I had discreetly obtained from a contact who owed me a favor. I knew that crippling her financially was the final blow, a way to ensure her fall from grace was complete. As I highlighted line after line of exploitable information, my phone rang. It was my sister, Laura, whose voice was filled with concern. Jason, I heard about what you're doing to Ida. This isn't like you. You need to stop before there's no turning back. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Laura, you don't understand. She betrayed me, lied to me about the most fundamental parts of our life. I can't just let that go. But is destroying her the answer? What about forgiveness? Laura pressed, her tone gentle yet firm. Forgiveness is for the weak, I snapped, a harsh edge to my voice that made Laura pause. After a moment, she continued, revenge won't bring you peace, Jason. It'll only leave you emptier. Please, think about what you're doing. I ended the call abruptly, irritation flaring within me. I didn't need her or anyone else telling me how to handle the betrayal that had torn my life apart. The next day, I visited the bank, documents in hand, ready to freeze Aida's assets through a series of legal loopholes I had discovered. The bank manager, a middle-aged man with a cautious demeanor, reviewed the papers closely. "This seems irregular," he commented, adjusting his glasses. "Are you sure you want to proceed with this?" "Absolutely," I affirmed, my voice void of hesitation. With a reluctant nod, he processed the paperwork, and I left the bank feeling a hollow victory. Aida's financial reserves would soon drain, her credit would plummet, and she would be left grappling with the fallout. As I drove home, my phone buzzed incessantly. Ignoring it initially, I finally glanced at the caller ID, Ida. I answered, curiosity piquing my interest. "Jason, please, you've done enough. I'm begging you, stop this." Her voice was frantic, filled with tears and desperation. "This is the bed you made, Ida. Now lie in it," I said coldly, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "You once loved me. Does that mean nothing now?" Her plea was heart-wrenching, but my heart had hardened against her cries. That love was based on a lie. "It's worthless," I retorted before hanging up. Later that night, I lay awake, the darkness of my room engulfing me as much as the darkness of my actions. A part of me wondered if Laura was right, if in my quest for revenge, I was losing myself. But the pain of Aida's betrayal was a constant echo, driving me forward on this path of retribution. As sleep finally claimed me, I knew the worst was yet to come. There were more plans, more consequences to orchestrate. The intrigue of how far I could push this and at what cost hung over me, a looming question that promised more sleepless nights. The culmination of my meticulous planning had finally arrived. Over the months, I had stripped Ida of everything she valued, her job, her social standing, her financial security. Yet, as I stood on the precipice of my final act of vengeance, a hollow emptiness gnawed at me, a whisper that maybe I had lost more of myself in this quest than I had ever imagined. It was a crisp, cold morning when I set out to confront her one last time. My steps were determined, my resolve like ice. I arrived at the rundown apartment she now called home, the stark contrast to our once beautiful house not lost on me. I knocked sharply, and the door slowly creaked open. Ida stood there, a shadow of her former self, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and resignation. "Jason," she breathed, her voice trembling. "What more do you want from me?" "Closure," I said simply, stepping inside, closing the door behind me with a quiet thud that seemed to echo in the sparse room. "I have nothing left to give," she said, her voice breaking, a mix of despair and defiance in her eyes. "That's where you're wrong," I countered, my voice cold. "You have one last thing to give me, the truth. The whole truth." Aida's eyes faltered, and then, as if the dams had broken, she began to speak, her words spilling out in a torrent. "There was no affair, Jason. The pregnancy, it wasn't real. I was trying to cover for my sister. She was the one having an affair and got pregnant. She couldn't face it, and I thought I could help by shifting the attention to myself." Her confession hit me like a wave, the ramifications of her words slowly sinking in. "You lied, to protect her. At the expense of our marriage." "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It was wrong. I see that now. But I thought I was doing it for the right reasons." Anger, betrayal, and an unexpected stab of sympathy warred within me. I had destroyed her based on a lie, a deception meant to protect someone she loved. "I needed you to trust me, to talk to me. Not this, not lies and schemes," I said, the anger in my voice replaced by a profound fatigue. "I know. I'm sorry, Jason. More sorry than you can ever know," she replied, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, I realized no amount of revenge would undo the damage, nor would it fill the void that had grown inside me. I had sought retribution, thinking it would heal me, but I was left emptier than before. "I can't forgive you, Ida." "Not now, not ever," I stated, the finality in my voice echoing around the stark walls. "And I will have to live with that," she accepted, her voice resigned. I turned and left, not looking back. The cold air bit at my skin as I walked away, each step taking me further from the wreckage of what had once been my life. In the end, I took one last piece of revenge, not through further destruction but by severing all ties, leaving behind the past and the person who had betrayed me so deeply. Ida and I would never see each other again, parted forever by the hatred of betrayal and the scars it left behind. As I disappeared into the anonymity of the bustling city, the realization dawned that true retribution wasn't about making others suffer, it was about finding the strength to let go and move forward, no matter how insidiously the roots of betrayal had woven through my life.